Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the Conflict of Nick channel. I'm your host Nick, and today I am going to be building off one of my last videos that I did, and it was, I believe, what to do in the beginning of a game. And today I want to build off that because a lot of you have requested this as well, and this specific topic, especially how to manage your resources and what to do in the mid game. Now obviously this isn't really the mid game you say, because it's day 13 of my Colombia game here, but I think that I've mainly moved past the beginning game, because as you see I have a coalition of 3. I'm playing with my friend No Light Bowtie and Dr. Silent Death as Bolivia, one of my longtime friends who I play with all the time, and they're doing great things. And so we've generally taken a lot of South America. And so what I'm going to be going over today is what to start thinking about once you start getting into that, middle part of the game, the median of the game. What you should think about, what you need to start doing, things like that. So why don't we hop right into it? So, focusing on resources. The biggest thing that I would say that I have done, especially building off the last video, is I have focused on the resources that I need. So, Colombia is a 7-city country. It has 2 component cities, and it has 2 supply cities, and it has 1 city of each of the other 3. So 1 rare materials, 1 electronics, and 1 fuel city. Now right off the bat, what I usually always do in my games is I build up the industries faster in the cities that I need a resource more of. So if I want to have more electronics per se, because I'm building more stuff that requires electronics, in this case my towed artillery, which I'm trying out for the first time by the way, I will need to build that up first. So I prioritize that. So I prioritize my unique resources first, because rare materials are going to be really useful in the early game, because you're going to want to research units as well. You're going to want to upgrade them. You're going to want to upgrade your industries, which also require rare materials, and so you're going to need them. So I always get this up as fast as I can. I always also get my electronics and my fuel up, because both of these are required to build arms industries, and they require a lot of them. And also, electronics are meant for things like technology. They are going to be essential for building things like Venezuela has, cruisers and destroyers, or even my simple artillery here, towed artillery. So they're going to be used for so much, and they can run out quick. Luckily, I have a decent production. I make 2.5k a day right now, but that can go down really fast once you start to get a lot of units that require especially daily upkeep of electronics, which daily upkeep can build up fast, and you can start to get your daily upkeep outproducing your actual production, so watch out for that. And I also prioritize my fuel, because almost all units, besides I think submarines after 1 upgrade and a couple other units, require fuel as a daily upkeep. And not only that, almost every building you're going to build requires fuel of some sort. It could be airfields, army bases, ports, arms industries, everything. Fuel is very, very essential, and don't take it for granted, because you do start with a solid amount of it in the beginning of the game, and you can have a decent production in the mid game, but you need to watch out, because once your army keeps getting bigger, that upkeep is going to get worse and worse and worse, and eventually you might also take losses, because you might lose cities that you've conquered that produce fuel, things like that. So you need to prioritize this as well, and this is why I prioritize my unique resources in the beginning, because I only get 1 city that produces them. And so that is important, because if you have 2 supply cities and 2 component cities like I do, and as Colombia, it means I can focus on those last, because I have 2 cities that can produce more anyway. And so I have also gotten my supplies industry is maxed out, because supplies is something that I need most of as well. I'm building a lot of infantry and a lot of towed artillery, and towed artillery and infantry both take a lot of supplies. And so really what you're going to want to think of is what your army is going to take in terms of resources. So if you're going for a heavy components based army or navy or air force in the beginning of the game, let's say tanks or ships or planes, you're going to want to upgrade your components cities first. And I have done those last because I haven't really needed to build much components required units so far, and so I basically let it build up, and I have about 23,000 right now, and that's really good. And I've got my industries about level 3 right now, but they're not maxed because I haven't needed to do that yet, and these are going to get maxed. I have the 4th and 5th level in queue for both these cities, but it hasn't been a necessity because I haven't needed it as much, and I could even sell this for some cash if I needed to. So really, that's what I like to do with my nations. Almost every game I play, I need to figure out what resources I need most, so where I need to focus my production first, and then what I can kind of give a little time, let's say my components for this game. So really, that's what you need to think about. You need to think about what your army is going to require, what your nation has that is strong, and what your nation has that is weak in terms of resources. I also have a couple provinces here that produce resources, but you just need to think about that. So next we're going to be moving into annexation of cities. Annexation is one of the most important things in the game in my opinion. I don't know if I covered it in the last one, but I probably didn't. I think I mentioned it that I would cover it in this video, so that's what I'm going to do. So annexing cities, as I said, is one of the most important things you can do in the game. Basically, what happens when you conquer a city? Let's take, I don't know, San Jose. Let's look at San Jose and look at the statistics. So, compared to my homeland city of Bogota, my capital, it produces nearly 2,000 electronics per day. It produces, if I believe, 100% resources, and it also gets the bonuses because it's my capital. It's a homeland city, so it has no debuffs. An occupied city with nothing else built is going to have a quarter of its production, so 25%. So in this city, it would probably be making about 1,000 right now. And just a little side note, it fluctuates between AI countries and regular player countries. AI countries actually produce a little bit less because obviously they're an AI city and a nation, so they won't be producing as much because they won't have stuff built or that population growth. But that's just something they don't need to worry about that much. It's not that really complicated. But so this city is producing 25% of what it normally would. And so annexation is really important because this will boost it to 50%. That means that annexing alone will increase this to about 400 or 500, which is really good. And combine that with arms industries, which also increase the production at level 5 by 50%. That's going to make this city produce, I think, around 600 or 700, because sometimes it's a little bit less, but around there. And that is really good because that is going to be making a lot compared to what it normally would be. But annexation is really expensive. It is going to require over 4,000 supplies, nearly 4,000 components, manpower, 1.5k rare, 2,500 fuel, almost 2,000 electronics, and 10,000 cash. So you're gonna really want to be careful what you annex, and you won't be really able to do this in the early game. I would save annexation for mid to late game. Now why is that? Because you have more resources, you're more sustainable, and it's not going to impact your flow of resources and upgrading and blah 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 in the beginning of the game for your nation. So I would recommend doing that in the mid to late game. Now what's one of the important things to do? You want to figure out what resource you really need to annex a city for. Your country, as Colombia for example, has 7 cities, so it's very sustainable, and just conquering alone can do the job. However, annexing is very important, as I said. So if you're running low on a resource or just plain need more of something, you're going to want to decide what resource you need. Let's say I need more components. I could annex this city of Quito, and I could also annex Trujillo, but I could also annex Tegucigalpa. Now, which of these 3 options might be good? So let me tell you what would be going through my head. So Quito and Tegucigalpa are both AI cities. Trujillo is a coastal city of Peru, a player country. Now, what am I thinking about? Well, obviously, the AI countries are going to have less generation, and the Peruvian city is going to have more generation. And not only that, but a coastal city is usually going to have more production than a landlocked city, especially if you have ports that are still there, like level 2 or level 3 or level 4 ports that are still alive after you conquered something, or if you just build them up. You can also increase production with that. Now, one thing that you also need to think about, again, is where you want to have your annexed city. Now, besides the resource output alone, you want to have your annexed city in a place that you feel it's protected, it's safe. You want to treat it like a homeland city, because that's what it really becomes. You get to produce troops there, you have increased resource production, and you should really treat it as if it were a homeland city, because if you lose that, all of that progress is going to be lost. If somebody takes your homelands, if somebody takes your annexed city and you end up taking it back, that city is no longer going to be annexed, it's going to be occupied. You're going to have to start from scratch. It's all gone. All that progress is lost. So you want to also have a solid position for your annexed cities. So generally what I like to do is I like to have my annexed cities somewhat near my actual homeland city, so it's not too far and it doesn't feel out of place. I also like to sometimes go for coastal, because obviously it adds a port city, you can build ships, and you can also have that extra output of resources. But really, if I were to choose an optimal position, I might choose Quito, because it's close to my other 5 homeland cities. It's one of the first cities I conquered, so its morale is great, and overall it has a solid position. It can get bartered by naval, but generally I'm going to have naval here anyway, because I'm protecting my coastal city here. So that's what I would be thinking about. So really, those are the things you need to be thinking about when you annex a city and when you want to manage resources. You want to think of the position, how much resources you can get out of it, how you're going to protect it, and what resource you need. So that's going to be my tips for resource management today. Lastly, what I will be talking about today is also going to be something that's not really covered, or something that many people don't even use. It's going to be the local industry. Now, the local industries are actually really good, and people don't really realize that, and it's actually really solid, because you can go up to 3 levels with the local industry. And the first level increases the resource production in the province by 100%, so it doubles it. Then level 2, it gets a little bit worse. You get 150% production, which means it adds 50%. And then at level 3, it adds another 50 to total at 200%. So you're going to have 3 times what you were producing if a province had no local industry. So what would I do with local industries? Well, to put it simply, I would upgrade them to level 1, and I usually wouldn't max them out after that unless I really need that resource. But it can actually be very good. I've seen, I think a max level local industry can get about 300 to 400 in a province like this that produces electronics. So really, it just depends on how much you need, and obviously you want to see if it's an occupied territory or a homeland, because obviously morale matters, and a burning province is going to produce less than a province that has a stable morale. Provinces like these ones in Peru are stable now, obviously, so I could put ones in those. But really, that's what I would do. Level 1 local industry is very good because it doubles the production of the province, and I would say leave it there unless you really need it, because level 2 and level 3 both only go up 50% each, which means level 1 goes up the same amount as 2 levels do after it. So if they each went up 100% and totaled 300% at the end, I would say go for it. But for now, since it's 100, 50%, and then 50% again, I would say keep it at level 1. Now let's talk about one of the things that is probably a little bit more confusing to players. It's going to be the stock market, or just the market here. And so you can click Show Market. This will drag down the tab that shows you the entire match's market system. Now, at the beginning of every game, I think as I said in the last video, there are AI offers, and there are 3 of them for each resource. The rare materials are good to buy if you have enough money. Electronics and fuel are also very helpful to buy, and sometimes these are as well, but I don't really always need these. These are more for mid or late game when I just need that little extra bit. But really, what I want to show you guys is some information about the market that many don't understand in Conflict of Nations. So, going into the market tab, we can see here that there are a bunch of numbers and they are a little bit confusing. But basically what it is there are 2 tabs for each resource. There is buy supplies and there is sell supplies. Basically what this means, to put it simply, is that the bottom tab here is going to mean the place where you can sell your resources for cash. The top one is going to be where you buy resources, aka supplies in this matter. So you can buy the resource in exchange for your cash. So you give cash in exchange for the resource. These are going to be where people put up offers to buy resources, and these are going to be the areas where people put up offers to sell their resources that they may not need, or maybe they need cash, and maybe people up here need a resource and have a lot of cash that they can spare. So what's important to know about this tab? Well, the second number is really what is most important. The second number is the offer that is obviously being put up for that resource. So what this number 8.8 means is that this is going to mean that the offer is going to be 8.8 cash for 1 supplies. So this is going to basically mean that the offer is going to be 8.8 times the amount that they're offering. So 1,177 times 8.8, and that's going to equal 10,358. And I have enough cash and I would buy that, but I don't need that. So that's really important, because one of the most frustrating things that was happening to me in the early game when I was new is I didn't know why my resources were disappearing when I wanted to sell them to friends. So something you need to take into consideration, and it's very simple, is that the resource or the offer goes to the highest bidder. So basically this is going to be the area in which you are going to have teammates looking at most of the time. So what people are generally going to do is this is where you are going to put up offers to buy materials. So if I want to add a buy offer, I will put the offer in here, 1,000 for 5. So the buy offer is there at the top. It's at the top because I have the highest bid. That means I'm offering the highest amount for the resource. And it will automatically go to the highest bidder no matter what. If it's your friend, if it's an outsider, it will always go to the highest bidder. So one key strategy is controlling the market. So one important thing you can do is make sure that you and your people communicate what you're putting up as the offer for the resource, because if you don't, you might actually sell to somebody else. So basically what you need to do to get the resource to you, if you absolutely need it, is you need to have the highest bid. So I just did 5, and then the other person's below me is 4.9, which was the highest. So I'm going to cancel that because I don't need to do that. So that's basically what that is. So I really hope that helps, because that was one of the most painful things for me to go through in terms of being new to the game, and it really was really painful to go through, but it was really good when I learned it, because I knew how to deal with it and learn the market more, control the market more in the game. So guys, if you're enjoying these basics videos, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. It means the world to me that you guys support the channel as much as you do, and I hope to continue to see it grow, and hope that you guys continue your support for me. I know my schedule isn't great, but I am always there trying to upload for you guys and to make you all happy. If you liked the video, you can leave a like. If you disliked it, you can leave a thumbs down. Leave a comment saying why you liked it or why you disliked it. Leave a question in there, or you can just say hi. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy the other stuff I'm doing. I hope you have a beautiful day. Nick out.